Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to Season 13 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight, for the first time in league history, we are here at the Dover Speedway down in Dover, Delaware, at a 1 mile or 1.6 kilometer long track, and this is going to be one of our handful of full length ARCA races. So it's going to be 150 miles of competition here this evening. And like I said, first time the league has ever been to this speedway, and I think this is bound to be one heck of a race here this evening. Dover opened back in 1969. It's a little bit of a weird one. It shares a lot of characteristics with Bristol. Of course, it is twice as large as the Bristol Speedway, but much like Bristol, one of the only tracks that NASCAR and by extension ARCA competes on with an entirely concrete surface, and also a track that has a bit higher banking than what you would expect for a track of this size. 24 degrees of banking in the corners, 9 degrees of banking even on the straightaways. It is very high speed for a single mile track, and I think even though this is going to be one of the full length ARCA race events, it's going to go by a little bit faster than we are used to. That said, drivers are making their way on down to the starting grid, so how about we take a quick look at how things will be shaken off here this evening. Shane Wyatt in the 45 Simrap Market entry, the driver out of Wisit, North Carolina in the 45, starting off on the pole with Brian Sabelski, running part-time this season in the Nihon Tiger 85, here to try and defend his 4 championships with the series. Garrett Hess in the Winter Rider 00, our current championships point standing coming into tonight, starting off in position number 3. With 4th place going back to the other Garrett, this one is for the SM Racing Products team in the number 15 machine. That's going to be Jay DeVries back in the 96, TJ Henson in the 62, Jeremy Morrow 7th and 8th, and then it's going to be Feeney Sparks, Houston Murphy, and Corey Logan rounding out this 13-car field here this evening at the Dover Motor Speedway. Green flag up in the air for the first time here tonight. But I'll tell you what, this is a bit of a slippery racetrack combined with that concrete racing surface. Going to be tricky on cold tires. So far, so good throughout the field, though. Shane Wyatt holding on to an early lead here this evening. Garrett Hess just behind in the 00. Caught about 3 car lengths between Hess and Wyatt right now. Back in third, Brian Sadowski in the number 85 coming into tonight's event. Last place in the championship standings. Got a long way to go to try and get those points made back up. Of course, fortunately, Sabelski not able to compete full-time here in season number 13, so great to see him out there on the track, especially out there having a solid run in the early goings of things here tonight. Just behind, that is the 15 of Garrett Streets. Right behind him, of course, Streets, last season's champion, here to try and defend his title coming into tonight's event. 3rd place in the championship standings in that 15 machine. 33 points to his name here this evening. Single file just about all around the speedway here. Everyone trying to find the comfortable groove to be riding in. So far, it seems like pretty standard of an oval. Go down to the apron, through the corners, keep it up high down the straightaways. But as we get the track heated up and rubbered in, we're probably going to see these lines changing, especially with the oval refresh update that came out just a couple of weeks ago from the iRacing team. A little bit further back in the field, going to be Jay DeVries, Jeremy Morrow, and TJ Henson's 5th, 6th, and 7th. Morrow up a spot right now, but how about look a little bit further back from this group? Riding in an all-gray paint scheme here this evening. That's going to be the 01 of Mr. Derek Houston, though you can't see it on the side right now. Not in the Home Depot entry like our overlay would suggest, just an all gray paint scheme here this evening. But Mr. Derek Houston qualified back at the tail end of the field, already up +5 in the first 7 laps of tonight's event here. Really fast so far in the early goings of things, but the big question is going to be, will he have speed in the long run? We have 150 miles of competition to go through here on this abrasive concrete surface at that. Tire wear is going to be a massive deal here tonight. It's going to be real easy to be sliding these tires on this rougher and heavily banked racing surface. A little bit of issues for TJ Henson there. Henson having to check up a bit, as well as Jeremy Morrow. That's going to allow Houston to get back into this battle without all that much difficulty. Now I'm going to get +6 for the driver of the 01 machine. The only driver right now that has gained more than a single position on the speedway, and frankly, the only other drivers that have gained a position on the track right now. Jeremy Morrow up +1, Garrett Hess up +1, and of course both of those were right on the initial start of tonight's event. Long way left to go here this evening, only 9 laps in the books out of 150 here this evening. Of course, the same distance as Phoenix was last week in terms of track length, not in terms of race distance. For last week back at Phoenix, another mile-long speedway just like Dover is, but only 100 miles of competition at Phoenix. So taking the skills they used last week and putting them to the test in a little bit of a longer run. A little bit further up in the field, Jay DeVries, Garrett Streets, and Brian Sabelski all duking it out here. Sabelski pulling away from this battle just a little bit, but DeVries and Streets still nose to tail here. Both drivers getting a little bit wiggly on corner exit. Definitely not what either of them wants to be seeing this early on in the race. It's still going to be a while before the pit stops should be opening here this evening. And of course, they do have unloaded sets of tires to be playing with, but you don't want to be losing track position down on pit lane, having to change tires every 5 minutes. Another wiggle off the corner there for Jay DeVries in that bright number 96, that blaster entry. Another driver we have seen a ton of speed out of the past couple of weeks. Not quite putting together the races that he has been looking for, but he has definitely been very strong, especially in the early goings of these events. Coming into tonight's event, being scored back into 8th in the championship standings. Still a long way to go left in the season. Of course, only 11 rounds instead of the usual 12 because we took Christmas off. So going to be a little bit of a different dynamic in the championship from what any of these drivers are used to. And of course, the other big change this season, and I did misspoke back at Daytona for our opening round back before Christmas, the full-length ARCA events, of course, the Daytona 200, the Dover 150, and then later on in the season, the Michigan 200 and the Kansas 150. These are not double points events like they were last season. That has been changed. All events will still be regularly scored now this season because the whole double points thing just made everything really messy, especially with the drop weeks. It made things really weird there. So we decided to just cut that out this season, but still going to be putting these ARCA drivers to the test with some full-length competitions to their real-life counterparts. Oh, big wiggle for Derek Houston. Houston way down to the low line. TJ Henson up into the outside wall. That was nearly trouble for both of these drivers. Now side by side for the 6th position. Excuse me, for 7th. Henson up on the high line, drifting up just a bit in that 62. Houston's going to clear the South Point 62 without too much difficulty there. Looked like both drivers having a little bit more steering issues than either of them would necessarily like here. Henson now trying her luck down on the low line, nearly contact with Houston up high, and actually does look like there's a little bit of damage on the right side of that 62 machine from contact with the outside wall. That is not going to be doing Henson any favors as both of them go into the outside wall on corner exit, and suddenly there's Jason Gardner, there's Brandon Feeney getting involved in this battle out of the blue. Suddenly a whole bunch of drivers that were not necessarily battling here getting themselves involved. Corey Logan down there, Derek Murphy involved here as well, as the 62 machine sinks back further back in the field. Bit of checking up there. There's trouble for the 74 of Jeremy Morrow falling back a couple of positions here. Just a complete gaggle from 6th all the way on back to 13th. Everyone's trying a little bit of something different here, trying to make this battle work. Michael Sparks up on the high line of Corey Logan, and also that's the 74 of Jeremy Morrow, the other SM Racing Products member. Just behind at the tail end of the field, the 78 of Derek Murphy. Once again, bringing in an unsponsored car here this evening in that number 78. Murphy currently down 3 from where he qualified. Morrow also down 3 from where he qualified. Henson also down 3 from where she qualified. That just leaves Sparks and Logan both still in the same positions as where they qualified. As they all single file it out, get nose to tail, try and settle into a little bit of a rhythm here. Those past couple laps a little bit scary for all these drivers, but it looks like they've generally got things sorted out for the moment. Derek Houston getting pressure from behind from the 93 of Jason Gardner. Gardner coming into tonight's event back in 11th in the championship standings. I do not believe he was able to attend. No, he did make it out to last week's event at Phoenix. It's not quite the run he's been looking for the last couple of weeks. Managing to get around the 01 of Houston though, and look who's back at it. It's the 62 of TJ Henson, looking to see if she can't try and make a move on that blank 01 car in our timing and scoring of Derek Houston. Going down to the low line, trying to see if she can make it stick, and so far so good. Just behind there is Michael Sparks, a driver that was back at the tail end of the field in the early goings of this one, making some ground in that NVIDIA number 42. Of course, new paint scheme for the driver of the 42. Saw him debut it back at the Phoenix Raceway last week. And it's allowed him to put it together some pretty decent runs in the early goings of these races. Definitely a car that we need to be keeping an eye on here this evening in that 42 as he pulls it down low, pulls it up alongside TJ Henson, and manages to clear down a low side without too much difficulty. Henson's going to go back at it though, right up on the tail of the number 42, and of course neither of these drivers giving Houston really any breathing room here. Sparks going to go for the pass down on the low line on Houston, mostly able to keep it down there. Maybe a tiny bit of contact down the front stretch, not entirely sure on that one. But they all managed to get it sorted out for the time being. Up at the front though, we do have a new race leader, the 000 of Garrett Hess, current championship leader, the driver out of Mechanicsville, Maryland, in the Everfrost Winter Rider livery. Current championship points leader, 58 points to his name over Cofield, who is currently, I thought we saw registered for this race, but I'm not seeing Cofield on the timing and scoring. But Cofield managed to put together a really solid run back at Phoenix last week. Fortunately, looks like not able to make it out here this evening to battle it out with the 00. And let's see, last time by 24:39 for Garrett Hess. Best lap of the session for him, a 23:07. The lap times definitely have fallen off a bit since practice. Hess did set the fastest time in practice with a 22:86, which was still a little bit shy of Wyatt's individual qualifying time of a 22:84. But right now, Hess seems to be smoking the field just a little bit with a 3-second gap to the rest of the cars. Speaking of the rest of the cars, though, how about we take a look back in second and third. This is the battle for second between Brian Sabelski and Shane Wyatt. Wyatt looked like he had this field in control in the early goings of this one, but already falling back just a bit. Still 6 seconds between Wyatt and all of the rest of the drivers in the field right now, so they have a bit of breathing room to be playing with now. But Sabelski looking like they're starting to pull away in that Nihon Tiger number 85. And of course, Nihon Tiger is their Twitch channel. Ryan Zabowski normally Twitch streams all of his races here in the ASRC Oval Series. So if you want to get an onboard view with one of the competitors here in the series, that is twitch.tv/Nihon Tiger. Running that number 85 paint scheme. Not able to compete full time here this season, but still putting on a heck of a run so far here tonight. Further back in the field, getting a little bit congested once again. Still nose to tail single file here. Gonna be Henson, Streets, Murphy, Morrow, and Logan. Drivers from 9th on back to 13th, completely separated from the rest of the field pretty much, but all still duking it out amongst themselves, side by side, just behind Jeremy Morrow and Corey Logan duking it out. Logan down the low line, Morrow up on the high side. Morrow is going to, I was about to say it looked like Morrow made the pass stick, but Corey Logan falled back just a little bit into line, trying to get some of that draft going. For only a mile track, Dover is big enough for the draft to play a little bit of an effect, just due to how high of speeds these drivers are reaching here, side by side for Garrett Streets and TJ Henson just in front of them. Eric Murphy getting a front row view of the battle right now. Let's take a ride on board with the driver of that number 78 here. Potentially a little bit of trouble here. Derek Houston making the call to come down pit lane. I'm not entirely sure if that was intentional or not. Could be trying to just short pit the field here. Let's see if we can't spool up his pit entry real quick. Make sure this was a voluntary pit entry and didn't have any sort of trouble. We've seen drivers getting loose off the corner. But no, this looks like it was entirely planned for the driver of the 01 machine, so a little bit of a lockup there on pit entry. But otherwise, this was a scheduled pit stop for the driver of that 01 machine. That's a bit surprising to see. No one else seems to have even considered coming down to pit lane yet. Getting a little bit concerned, though. We are now at 41 seconds for Derek Houston down in his pit box, and I don't see the crew doing any sort of real work on that car. No fuel or tires seems to be the call. So I think Houston might either be serving a penalty or getting some sort of damage repaired. That was an unnaturally long pit for the driver of the 01 machine, and that's going to be putting him at least 4 laps down, if not 5, as he makes his way out of pit exit here. definitely a bizarre situation for the 01 machine. I'm not quite sure what made him spend all of that time down there. Sure enough, back out on the speedway. A little bit of damage to the right front of that machine, so that might be the explanation for what all is going on down there. Either way, 4 laps down is going to be quite the deficit to have to make up. A little bit further up in the field, the two SM Racing Products drivers find their way back together. Garrett Street's down 5, Jeremy Morrow down 3 right now. Neither of them currently quite having the runs that they were looking for, especially after the SM Racing Products crew put on such a dominant display back at Daytona. All 4 SM Racing Products cars put on one heck of a show back at Daytona, but of course Dover, little bit of a smaller speedway. Teamwork still comes into effect just a bit, but certainly not in the same way that we see it with super speedway racing. Of course, Michigan is on the schedule here in a couple weeks. Michigan is a track where I think the SM Racing Products crew is going to really be shining again, because that's another track where having a friend to be working with can be a monumental factor in the event. Uh-oh, trouble. The 74 hard into the outside wall. Manages to save it. No, he doesn't. Hard into the inside wall. Oh, that is some substantial damage on the number 74 of Jeremy Morrow there. Both him and Street's a little bit loose off the corner with the leader coming up right behind him. Everyone tries to do their best to avoid, and that could potentially be race-ending damage on the number 74 machine. Let's see if we can't take a quick look back at that. Of course, no caution flag out on the speedways. Everyone kept it pointed in the right direction. Let's see if we can't take a little bit of a look back here. A little bit further back than we would like to be. Let's see here if we can't get this spooled back up a little bit earlier. There we go. A little bit further back here, Jeremy Morrow running alongside with his teammate in the 15 of Garrett Streets, right behind the 00 of Garrett Hess, race leader on their tails. Coming out of turn number 4, a little bit more speed than he needed. Both SM Racing Products drivers hit the outside wall, barely losing that 74. He almost had that under control, and that would have been the save probably of the entire season, but fortunately not quite able to make it happen here. And of course, Jeremy Morrow now finding his way down on pit lane, almost a full minute down there now. First driver that appears to have made an actually scheduled stop, though. That's going to be the 45 of Mr. Shane Wyatt in the Sim Wrap Market entry. Only a 14-second pit stop, so that's a little bit more on what we actually expect these drivers to be doing when they pit. That is scoring Wyatt 2 laps down right now, which is going to be quite the deficit to try and make up. But looking around the speedway course on those newer tires, he might be able to at least unlap himself on the other cars that are still a lap down. I'll put him a little bit of a more favorable position should we have the caution flag fly on the speedway. 50 laps in the books, though, 100 laps left to go, a third of the way here into tonight's event. Still a long way left to go here this evening, and all green flag racing so far so good around the speedway. Garrett Hess still our race leader, uncontested right now with a 3.15 second lead. Let's see how he was last time by. Getting ready to come out of turn 4 here, so let's let him cross the line before we get an updated reading on that. Last time by for Garrett Hess, a 24.6. Let's see what the call is going to be for Sabelski, 24.62. How about we wait for Feeney as well? 24.98. So Hess is the fastest car on the speedway right now. Sabelski, pretty close, but pretty close ain't quite going to be enough from 3 seconds back. A couple of drivers making the call down to pit lane. Derek Murphy making his way down there. TJ Henson is as well. Let's see what the call is going to be for these two drivers for their respective pit stops. We have Henson pull down into her pit. definitely going to be at least right side tires. That's no surprise to see here with unlimited sets. Will we see her taking 4? Yes, we will. 4 tires for TJ Henson. How about Derek Murphy making his way on down into his stall? What will the call be for the 78 right side tires? Once again, really not a surprise there. Will he be taking lefts as well? Yes, he will. 4 tires going to be the call for TJ and for Derek. Back out on the track, battling between Jay DeVries and Jason Gardner side by side here, but the caution flag is going to come out for the first time on the speedway. Let's just put that battle on pause for a second here. Word from the truck is that it was Derek Houston, and it might actually just be Derek Houston because it looks like Derek Houston just retired from the event. Yeah, it's looking like that 01 machine just took it back to the hauler. Let's take a look and see if we can't see what happened here, though. Houston, maybe. Sure enough, looks like on his out lap, maybe. And no, Houston just parks it and immediately takes it down to the truck. So it looks like either some sort of major technical or mechanical failure going on here, or just some sort of real world issue that that driver has to go take care of. Unfortunate that the caution flag came out, but sure enough, that is going to be the end of Houston's run here this evening. He has packed it up and put it on the hauler. With the caution flag out, a couple of drivers taking the opportunity to make their stops. Brian Sabelski, Jay DeVries, and Jason Gardner. What's the call going to be for these drivers? 4 tires for Sabelski. Might as well. Everyone else was doing it on the green. You have a caution to play with here, so why not? 4 tires for Jay DeVries. What about Jason Gardner? Gardner, not quite sure on that one. He's been down there for a good 30 seconds now, so there might be some damage that they're actually working on that number 93 machine, because we're now going up past 40 seconds, and there's not really any servicing to these cars that should be done routinely. That takes now 50 seconds on pit lane. Sure enough, it's looking like a decent portion of the rest of the cars elects to make the call to come down. Hess is coming down, Feeney coming down, Sparks, Streets, and Logan all coming down as well. Let's see what our race leaders decide to do here. Interesting to see Wyatt coming down, because this is actually Wyatt's second stop here tonight. Going to be sharing pit stalls right next to Hess, so let's see what the call is going to be for these 2 drivers. Right sides go on for Hess. Right sides go on for Wyatt. Left sides go on for Hess. And looks like left sides for Wyatt as well. Hess going to maintain the race lead as he comes out. At least he's going to win the battle off a pit road. Wyatt spending more time down there than expected, though. We're now up to... oh. Well... it looks like Wyatt just packed it up and put it on the hauler as well. Also potentially trouble. Garrett Hess spinning it out on the outlap. That is trouble for your race leader. Losing it under caution on the outlap. Those tires not quite ready to be brought up to temp. There is just trouble all around the speedway right now. While we still get this caution flag sorted out, let's take a look back to see what happened to Mr. Garrett Hess. Coming out of pit lane, getting back up on the track, slows it down to catch up to the tail end of the field, and oh, downshifted maybe one more time than he meant to. That's a little bit of an oopsie daisy. That might see him be sent back to the tail end of the field. I don't know if race control is going to let him keep his spot after pulling that off. Nope, sure enough, Garrett Hess up to P number 2. Sabelski is going to be our race leader coming to the green, though. That's going to be Feeney and Sparks for row 2. Jay DeVries, Jason Gardner, row 3. Garrett Streets, all by him Slowsome at the tail end of the field as the last driver on the lead lap. Murphy and Logan down a lap. Wyatt down White's, sure enough, White is packed up on the hauler right now. Henson down 6 laps. Jeremy Morrow down 7. What a chaotic halfway through this race. Pace car's off, though. We're going to try and get this thing going once again, one way or another. I don't think anyone's expecting this last 8 laps to play out the way they were, but we're taking the green. We're trying again. Brian Sabelski gets his first taste of reading the race here for, I believe actually this is his first lap led all season. I might be mistaken on that one, but I believe that this is Sabelski's first couple of laps led here for season number 13. Of course, 4-time champion here in the ASRC Oval Series. Didn't quite have Daytona going the way he wanted, then unable to attend the race back at Phoenix last week. Garrett Hess being scored just behind him in the 0-0, only 0.2 of a second back. Hess is not going to make this easy for the driver of the number 85. Of course, last season, Hess only competed part-time and still managed to take home the most wins of any driver back in season number 12. 3 wins to his name, 1 at a short track, 1 at a speedway, and 1 on a road course. So Hess has shown that he has the skills to make it happen on just about any kind of track. And here, season number 13, he said that he is committed to running the full season this season. Right now leading the championship, and he doesn't want a past champion potentially getting in the way of his chances of taking home his first championship in the ASRC Oval Series. Both him and Sabelski have pulled away from the rest of the field just a bit here, already a full second back. But that's not the only battle on the track. There is Jay DeVries with Brandon Feeney just behind, and that 62, the South Point entry of TJ Henson, though she is currently being scored 6 laps down, so not a part of this battle in that South Point 62. And trouble, Jason Gardner around, and he's going to pick up Corey Logan. Caution flag out on the speedway. Gardner immediately takes the tow down to pit lane. Still out on... Okay, he is still in his box. We got that going for him. He has taken the tow, but he is not retired like Houston and Wyatt have. Let's take a look back, try and see what happened, because that looked like the car just snapped loose on him. I didn't see anything that he really did wrong there to prompt that spin. Coming out of turn number 2 and starts to slide. He tries to catch it, and the car just snaps on him. And then Corey Logan, not really anything that could be done there. Take a look down, ride on board with Logan there. See what they saw going into this incident. And look at Sparks up there in that black and green NVIDIA entry. That was quite the dive to avoid the incident there. I think we got to take a moment to ride on board with Sparks, because that was quite the move. Everything going good. He sees Jason start to spin. He goes up high. He goes down low. And it's a miracle that he did not collect the car behind him. That was really close there. Jason Gardner still being down on pit lane. We also see Jeremy Morrow, Corey Logan down on pit lane as well. Of course, Logan did get damage in that incident. Garrett Streets also making the call to come down pit lane here. All of these drivers have spent at least 30 seconds on pit lane, so it looks like all of them are trying to get damage repaired here this evening. What a bizarre situation we have here this evening. So it's going to be Brian Sabelski, Garrett Hess, still row 1, Jay DeVries, Brandon Feeney, row number 2, Sparks and Murphy, row 3. All of these drivers in the top 6 have gained positions so far this evening, so all of them probably pretty happy with how things are shaking out right now, especially Mr. Brandon Feeney. Feeney coming into tonight's event being scored outside of the top 13 in the championship standings right now. So, not quite the season he's been hoping for so far early in the goings. Last season was the runner-up in the point standings, right behind Garrett Streets. Looking to see if he can't make it happen here this season, but there is some stiff competition here in season number 13. It has been crazy racing all throughout the field. And sure, Hess has been doing really good so far here in the first couple of races, but it's not been without competition. This field has been absolutely stacked, and I think all of these drivers are going to have to really work for every last point that they're going to be able to pick up in these next couple of races. Of course, next week, heading to a 1.5 miler, not a full-length ARCA event. That will only be 100 miles compared to the 150 miles here. But we will be heading on over to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Another one of those intermediate tracks. Tried to cut down on the number of short tracks that we visited here in season number 13 after all the difficulty that the drivers had in season number 12. The short tracks proved to be a lot more chaotic, a lot more caution-filled than any of the other tracks that were visited. So, shaking things up a little bit here in season number 13, and so far, things have been pretty dang good for these drivers. Lights out on the iRacing.com pace car. We're going to try and get this thing rolling once again. Sabelski and Hess, your front row, getting ready to near the halfway point here in the next couple of laps. Still getting everyone shaken up into the right spots just behind. Of course, everyone behind Garrett Streets here, and Streets is at the tail end of the field because he was the lucky dog. But everyone past Streets, so Henson, Morrow, Wyatt, Houston, Logan, Gardner are all a lap down right now. Big left turn for the pace car, getting the heck off the speedway before we let the chaos reign once again. Green flag up in the air and a very good start for Sabelski. Caught Hess sleeping there just a little bit. DeVries pulls down low, finds his way battling up for the second position going down into turns 1 and 2. Looks like the outside line, maybe not the place to be on the restarts, but DeVries not able to pass Hess. He did not clear him. He's going to have to fall back just like that, all the way back into the third position. Single file for your top three before a little bit of a gap to the drivers further back in the field. And we see Jason Gardner coming back out on the speedway, which is good to see. Currently being scored 5 laps down here, but still very much in this event. Just in front, Brandon Feeney battling it out with Derek Murphy, the last two drivers on the lead lap here, battling it out for position number 6. Both of them a little bit by themselves. The rest of the pack is starting to pull away, but still a long way left to go. Not even halfway into tonight's event quite yet here. Just currently looking at the closest battle on the speedway between the Canadian driver of Mr. Brandon Feeney and the unsponsored 78 of Derek Murphy. Both these drivers have been running here in the league for a couple of seasons now. Both of them trying to break the curse. Of course, Derek Murphy, wouldn't it be any less of a coincidence if we decided to talk about him while he is running back in the 7th position? It's a curse that this driver cannot quite break. He is always in 7th. No matter what time we look at him or what's going on in the race, he finds a way to sit comfortably in the 7th position. He's putting the pressure down on that 38 of Brandon Feeney, though, so he might not stay in 7th for long here. Got the gap down to 0.1 of a second, less than a car length between the two of them. And Feeney wiggles a little bit on corner center there, which is not where we normally see cars have a bobble. That side, Murphy is going to fall back just a little bit here, 0.2 of a second. Closing back in on the 38, so it looks like Murphy is definitely beating Feeney on entry speed here. Let's see how the lap times shake up once they complete this lap. See how things are looking between these two drivers. And as we cross the line, going to be a 24 flat for Feeney, 23.91 for Murphy. So Murphy is going a little bit faster in that 78 machine. Just by a hair, but will it be enough to catch that 38? It does look like Feeney is on about 15 lap newer tires than Murphy is. No, he's not. Actually, that's not true. Feeney did not take tires on his last pit stop. Only 5 seconds was his pit stop time, so he just got a splash of fuel and went. Feeney could, I believe, actually be on just as old tires as Murphy is. A little bit further up in the field, battling it out for the lead, Sabelski and Garrett Hess still within 0.2 of a second of each other. Last time by, identical lap times between our two leading drivers, so things are definitely close up here. Both drivers pit on the same lap as well. Both took 4 tires under their stops. And as we cross the line, this time Sabelski a full 0.15 faster than Hess, so Sabelski has some speed to work with here in that 85 machine. Hess ain't going to make it easy for him, but with how much he ran up at the front in the early goings in this race, I can't help but wonder if that maybe had some impact in his speed in the later goings of this one. We have officially crossed the halfway point, so just over 60 laps left to go here at Dover. And of course, for as big of a speedway as it is, these drivers are still turning 23-second laps. Those are speeds that we would sometimes expect out of some short tracks, but the banking here at Dover is just so ridiculously extreme. Of course, 24 degrees in the corners, 9 degrees on the straights. And it lets these drivers pull off some much faster speeds than we would normally see them achieving on a mile-long speedway. Hess looking like he's not quite able to close the gap though. Last time by, still slower than Sabelski by a full tenth, so Sabelski has figured out some speed here. As potentially, trouble for Streets. Streets potentially went around. There's a little bit of damage on the left side of that 15 machine, and he just lost a substantial amount of ground to the number 38. Let's take a quick look back. Is everything okay with Garrett Streets? No, it is not. Massive slide coming out of 4. Manages to avoid hitting the wall, but that might just have his tires cooked for the remainder of tonight's event. Very unfortunate for the driver of the 15. No caution flag coming out, and no real damage on that 15 other than the damage to his top speed. Hey, look, there's his teammate just behind in the number 74. Not battling for position here, as that 74 Morrow currently being scored 7 laps down. As another huge wiggle coming out of the corner for Garrett Streets. Those tires are absolutely cooked on that Pontiac. He is going to be in for a rough one for the rest of the race. Oh man, he is just wiggling so hard here. Let's take a moment to ride on board with the driver of the number 15. We got to take a look at these wheel inputs here. Oh Lord, is he struggling on those cooked tires. Hold it down low, trying to get around that 74 of his teammate. Of course, a lapped car here, but he is incredibly squirrely at all points on the speedway at this rate, with just how much those tires have heated up from that spin. They're not going to be doing him any favors for the rest of the race. This is only going to get worse as he keeps going. Every time he slips, those tires get put in worse condition, and it's just going to be an endless cycle of this happening over and over again. So far, he's managing to hang on to it. We got to give him credit. He is hanging on to this very well, but you're going to have lots of that happening. You're going to have lots of getting loose, potentially ending up down in the inside wall again like we saw him, which brought out this trouble he's having with his tires in the first place. But right now, he's doing a little bit of dirt tracking here at Dover. We spent all of the intro to this race comparing Dover to Bristol, so you know what? Why not have some dirt Bristol, or some dirt Dover to go with your dirt Bristol? He's doing his best out there. Garrett Streets currently the last driver on the lead lap right now, and he is getting real squirrely here. Manages to hang on to it, but oh man, you can hear the off throttle time. You can hear him trying to save the car. Let's take a look at the battle going on for the lead, and hopefully we don't see a yellow flag come out here in the next couple of minutes. Oh, hang on to it, Streets. Oh boy. Further up in the field, though, the battle for the lead between Hess and Sabelski heating up. 0.2 of a second dividing these two drivers. Hess right on the bumper of the 85 machine. The hard part is figuring out how to get around him. Sabelski is holding a very straight, very consistent line down on the low side. We're not seeing him really bobble or make any sort of mistakes here. And no mistakes is going to make Hess's job really difficult. Of course, there is a little bit of a draft here. Not quite as much as we'd see at other tracks, but there is a little bit to play with. But you still got to get the corner lined up. It looks like the outside line not really doing these drivers any favors, at least through the corners. Of course, down on the high side seems to be going well enough. Gotta be careful though, because just in front of our race leaders is Mr. Garrett Streets, who is still having a little bit of trouble hanging on to that 15 machine with those cooked tires. Looking a little bit stable now here through 3 and 4. A little bit loose on corner exit, but he holds it up high. The leaders come on down low. No harm, no foul for the driver of the number 15 machine. Just don't spin down into the 00 and everything's a-okay. Leaders get around that number 15. That will be making him the next driver a lap down. That leaves 6 cars left on the lead lap. Feeney, Murphy, Sparks, DeVries, Hess, and Sabelski. As Streets gets loose off the corner, he waited for the leaders to go by before it happened at the very least. Hess still trying to figure out how to make it work on that 85 machine here. Sabelski holding a very consistent line, still turning faster laps than Hess as well. Last time by, Sabelski at 20. Oh no, look at that. I stand corrected. Last time by, Sabelski at 24.3, Hess a 24.2. So Hess still does have some competitive lap times to show that number 85. Of course, 93 laps in the book, still a decent way left to go here in tonight's event. The clock is ticking, and looks like Garrett Streets is going to make the call to come down pit lane. He has had enough of those tires. He wants nothing more to do with it, and frankly, I don't blame him. With how it stands right now, as long as he doesn't try and get any of this damage fixed, if he just takes tires, he will still be in the lucky dog position should a caution flag come out. Of course, Gardner down 5 laps, Henson down 6, Morrow down on pit lane, currently being scored as about 15 laps down. Corey Logan, looks like Logan has also taken it back to the hauler here this evening. A couple of these drivers just not quite feeling it here tonight at Dover. A little bit further back, Derek Murphy starting to gain on that 38 of Brandon Feeney last time by. Murphy almost a full tenth faster than Feeney. Of course, right behind them, the number 93, Jason Gardner, not battling for position right now. That is a car being scored a couple laps down here, but still out in the race trying to get experience. Of course, also here in trouble for Gardner as he scrapes the outside wall in that 93. But more experience, always a good thing. You can always hope another driver crashes out and you manage to get some spots that way. And also, here in the ASRC Oval Series, you have to complete 75% of the race distance for your bonus points to count. Particularly, that stands for the bonus points for finishing the race without any incidents, because of course if you start the race, turn 5 laps and park it and don't get any incidents, that's not exactly an impressive feat. So you gotta finish at least 75% of the race to get all of your bonus points, and right now we are not quite there yet. So everyone out on the speedway, even if they are way far back in terms of laps, they could still potentially get the amount of laps necessary to turn for the bonus points to apply. Ryan Zabelski making the call to come down pit lane here under green flag conditions, which is surprising to see. Should be the final pit stop that we see out of these drivers, but I could stand corrected. We've seen more shocking pit strategies in the past. I'm curious to see, mostly from Zabelski, what is his plan going to be with tires here? Right side's going on the number 85. Are we going to see him be taken 4 under green flag conditions? That could be a risky play. Sure enough, 4 tires give me the call for the number 85. Just presumably a little splash of fuel, because he got that pit stop done real quick. Garrett Hess going to be the next driver coming on down, though, so Hess needs fuel as well. I'm curious to see now, will we see the 00 also be taking 4 tires? I mean, it only puts Zabelski a lap down, so I guess it is going to work out should this cycle stay under green. I'm just surprised because normally we only see the drivers taking 2 tires when they make green flag stops, even at these larger tracks. Sure enough, going to be 4 tires for the 00 as well, and that is going to have Jay DeVries up here being scored as the race leader, so he will pick up a bonus point for leading at least 1 lap here tonight. If stays out after DeVries pits, then we will see Sparks getting the bonus point as well. It looks pretty uncontested that Hess will be walking away with the bonus points for most laps led, because he has just been on a dominant streak in the early goings of tonight's event. But we should see a couple of drivers around the field picking up the bonus point for leading at least 1 lap here tonight. Zabelski coming out on pit lane, turning his new fastest lap, though, a 22.94, which is actually the fastest lap of the race. The only driver that has turned a sub 23 second lap time under race conditions. Of course, qualifying we saw 22-second lap times. Practice we saw 22-second lap times, but this is the first 22-second lap time that we have seen during the actual race event. And sure enough, Hess going to take it with a 22.95 from Zabelski, and Zabelski immediately going to take it back with a 22.94. So very, very close pace between our 2 former leaders, and Hess is going to outdo it now with a 22.93. Will we see Zabelski respond with a 22.92? Michael Sparks making a call to come down pit road. And Zabelski is actually catching up on Garrett Hess here. Half a second dividing the 2 of them. A little bit closer to 0.7 of a second, but still Zabelski is gaining on the Nihon Tiger entry. He has to get around that lap car of Jason Gardner, and Gardner's going to pull it up high, let the leaders go on by. Now he has to figure out how he is going to catch who will be our race leader once things cycle out, Mr. Ryan Zabelski. Let's see how Sparks is doing down on pit lane. Going to be taking 4 tires. How about Jay DeVries? What will the call be for the 96? As he makes his way down into his box here. Slowly but surely, there we go. Looks like Jay will be taking 2 tires as well. I would imagine the call is going to be 4 tires at this rate. Every driver that has made a pit stop under green around these past 10 laps has taken 4 tires, and Jay is going to be no different. That just leaves Brandon Feeney out on the speedway as the last driver that presumably needs to make a pit stop. Of course, he has pitted 3 times now which is more than most of the other drivers on the field. The only other driver that has pitted 3 times is Michael Sparks. We'll have to keep an eye on Feeney, because Feeney used unorthodox pit strategies to make his championship run last season so successful. Of course, that 00 Hess passing him now for the race lead. Or no, that actually is just unlapping himself. So Feeney is being still scored as the race leader, but of course, as soon as Feeney and Murphy pit, that will be putting Sabelski and Hess back up at the front of this show. And sure enough, you can see Sabelski hot on the tail of Hess here. Still about close to a second between the two of them. Sabelski was gaining, now falling back just a little bit here as both of them start to come up on Michael Sparks. That will be putting the 42 driver down a second lap unless a caution comes out very soon, but I can't quite see that happening. Down to 0.75 of a second though, so Sabelski is slowly gaining, and last time by Sabelski a 1/10 of a second faster than Hess. But Hess is still managing to keep Sabelski at bay. Just not quite able to make that gap close up. Let's see how we look when we cross the line here. This time by Sabelski, slower than Hess by only a 1/1000th of a second this time. So very similar in lap times. It's still anyone's game between Hess and Sabelski. And of course, if a caution flag comes out, we could see Feeney or Murphy making some pretty insane pit strategy calls here, and we might see them be vying for the lead of this race as well. Going to be 34 laps left to go as we cross the line here for the Dover 150. Not a lot of time left to settle the score. TJ Henson making the call down pit lane, so is Jason Gardner. Both these drivers not being scored on the lead lap right now. Looks like it should be routine stops for both of these drivers. Of course, I say that Gardner has been in his pit box for over 2 minutes now, so not a routine stop for the number 93, but it should be a routine stop for the 62 of TJ Henson. Sure enough, it is going to be a routine stop for TJ Henson. 4 tires and fuel is the call. Out here back up on the main battle for the lead, of course, once pit kills follow through. Sabelski started to fall back. 1.5 seconds between Hess and Sabelski here. Hess is pulling away. Feeney is still electing to stay out in that 38 machine. I don't know how much fuel that 38 has left, but evidently he's still feeling pretty confident in how things are going right now, because he doesn't seem to have any signs of stopping, and he doesn't even seem like he really has any signs of fuel saving either. He is a decent bit slower than Hess and Sabelski. I'm not quite sure. I think Feeney... I don't think he has fuel to make it to the end. He could prove me wrong here, but I don't see it. I don't think he can do it. Especially because last time by, a full second slower than Hess and Sabelski. And they're only 14 seconds back, so they're going to start making this ground up, and we could see Hess and Sabelski take the lead back just from pure pace without the pit strategy necessary at all. Still running his line, doing his best to do it. Murphy finally making the call to come down to pit stop as the leaders start to gain on him. So that just leaves Feeney alone in whatever strategy he's trying to cook up here. Henson and Gardner are both right behind. They are both lapped cars, but they are lapped cars on pretty substantially newer tires than he is. Everyone that is still out on the speedway has pit within lap 100 to now, except for Feeney. Feeney's last pit was all the way back on lap 66, and on that pit, he only took fuel. So Feeney's tires are even older than that. Probably, if I had to guess, in the 70 to 80 lap old range for that number 38 machine. So that would explain the pretty substantial pace difference that he has between the rest of the field, but he's still running. He's still trying to make it work. When we cross the line, we will be going 25 to go, but there's only 9 seconds between himself and Hess, unless a caution flag comes out and he manages to pit under yellow. Feeney is going to get caught by our 2 race leaders. He's not going to be able to hold them off for another 25 laps at the paces that they are setting. I'll tell you what, it certainly seems like that 38 machine is setting out to try. Last season, Feeney took home the wins back at Michigan and then Phoenix. 2 back-to-back wins for the driver in season number 12. Finished in the runner-up position behind Garrett Streets, who's retired from tonight's event. And then, of course, speaking of Garrett Streets, took home the win at Lanier, and then took home the win at South Boston. So Garrett Streets, both short track wins last season. Hess took home the win at Pocono, USA International, and Tsukuba. And then Jason Long, who is not present here this evening, took home the win at Charlotte. Zabelski took home wins at Homestead and Iowa. And then Nico Morelli actually took home the win at Talladega. So, pretty big variety in drivers who managed to take home the win last season. Most of them either unable to make it out to the event here tonight or have retired from the race. It just leaves Feeney, Hess, and Sabelski, your 3 drivers who are still on the lead lap here as your 3 drivers that took home win last season. 23 laps left to go. Hess is 5 seconds back. Call it about half a straightaway between Feeney and Hess. I don't know what Feeney's strategy is at this point. I'm not sure what the game plan is. Because even if he doesn't have to pit, which I think he does, but let's say he doesn't have to pit, he still is going to fall back at least behind Hess and Sabelski. He might be able to stay in front of Jay DeVries, but I'm not certain on that one either. Regardless, 20 laps left to go once we cross the line. Hess is closing the distance slowly but surely. But actually, it looks like Hess and Sabelski are starting to burn off. Oh, well, caution flag is out on the speedway. I'll be damned, race fans. I did not think we'd be seeing another caution flag here this evening. I think we just made the 38 of Mr. Brandon Feeney a very happy race car driver. Let's take a look back to try and figure out what exactly happened here. Word from the truck is it's between Derek Murphy and Jay DeVries. And sure enough, that's Derek Murphy and Jay DeVries, all right. Let's take a look here. DeVries up on the high side of the 96, Derek Murphy down low, and they both just kind of come together into each other. And oh no, it actually looks like Feeney might have been involved there. Hold on, let's take a look back here. Feeney might have gotten collected in that accident. So you're right on board with them. They come together, he slows down, he goes up high. Oh no. Well, our race leader was involved in that incident. That's a little bit difficult, a little bit awkward. Oh boy. Oh boy. What an incident to behold between Derek Murphy and Jay DeVries. So Feeney might be out of this race because of that. That's a big if. He's down in pit lane right now. But that was a hard impact to the left front. I think that's damaged his tire. That means that this restart, is going to come down to Garrett Hess, Brian Sabelski, and Michael Sparks. Nope, it looks like Brandon Feeney is coming back out on the track, so Feeney is still on the lead lap. He certainly has a ton of damage on all four sides of the car to be dealing with, but he is back out on the track. He is still on the lead lap. Jay DeVries down on pit lane still, and it does not look like he will be making it back out in time. Fascinating. 18 laps left to go. It's going to be a sprint to the finish with 4 cars left on the lead lap. It's going to be quite the shootout here. I don't think anyone had that in their playbooks, that there was going to be a caution with 20 to go. But sure enough, that's where we are now. Man, what a wild card. Derek Murphy, or no, Michael Sparks is the lucky dog, and he is being put back on the lead lap here in that 42 machine. A little bit of damage on the front end of it, but at this rate, who doesn't have front end damage? Could still be anyone's game here. I don't think anyone still needs to pit. Everyone should be good to go in that regard as far as I can tell. Actually, take a moment, take a look down at the pit strategies here. Everyone up here has pit plenty of times in the last couple of laps. A couple of people have pit probably more than they necessarily needed to, but we've had plenty of drivers pitting here. All of them have pit since lap 100, and we've established at this point that these cars can make it about 53 laps on fuel, maybe 55, 56. So everyone should be good to go in that regard. It's going to come down to who can make their tires work the best in the short run. It's going to be Hess and Sabelski, row 1, Feeney and Sparks, row number 2, and that's the last of your cars on the lead lap. Behind them, it's going to be Murphy and Henson Gardner, and Streets is retired. So that's the entire field. That's it. That's all you got here, race fans. 4 cars, 16 laps when we take the green flag. 16 miles of competition. One of these 4 is going to figure out a way to make it happen, one way or another. Sparks is at the tail end of the field because he was at the lucky dog, but I think these lap cards are going to let him by. Green flag back up in the air. Hess off to a solid start here at the beginning. Sabelski and Feeney. Oh man, Feeney's falling back. Feeney is falling back big time. That damage is not doing that 38 machine any favors. Oh boy. So Hess and Sabelski battling it out for the lead here. Hess up in front of the number 85 with 15 to go as we cross the stripe. Sabelski following just behind. Last time by, Sabelski a full 10th faster than Hess. So Hess is going to have to play the defensive game here because Sabelski has a lot of speed to be playing with. Feeney still falling back big time. His car is too damaged to even think about competing for the race win here. Of course, that is provided that Hess and Sabelski don't take each other out. We have seen the 2 race leaders. Not only that, but we have seen the 2 race leaders who were teammates take each other out with 5 laps to go. So anything could still happen here. It is still anyone's game. But right now it's looking like Hess and Sabelski really have the dominant machines here. Last time by, 23.6 for Hess and Sabelski, 23.9 for Feeney, 23.7 for Sparks. So both Sparks and Feeney a little bit too damaged to get involved in this battle here. 13 laps left to go here at the Dover Speedway. 13 more miles of competition. Of course, going to be 12 here as we cross the line. These drivers still ticking off laps incredibly quickly. Only just now pretty much crossing the hour mark for tonight's event, getting these longer full-length ARCA races out of the way a lot faster than I think both myself and some of these drivers were expecting here this evening. still nose to tail for our two race leaders here. Hess, championship standings leader. Sabelski at the tail end of the championship standings coming into tonight's event at the very back of it. Sabelski with prior championships to his name. Hess looking to try and take home his first at the end of the season. And I'll tell you what, tonight's event could have some long-standing implications for the remainder of the season here. Double high five up in the air from the flagman though. 10 laps left to go here at Dover. Hess still hanging on to the front of it. Sabelski still keeping it within 0.3 of a second. That is still a very respectable gap here. I think Sabelski knows that he only has one shot at this, and if he makes it at the wrong time, it's not going to work, and Hess is going to take it from him. But he's got to be real patient here. He's got to be real careful with how he plans to do this. Lapped car up in front of the two of them. I believe that is Jay DeVries. Sure enough, DeVries keeps it up high against the wall, lets them both go by without too much difficulty. You know what driver is getting a little bit back into this, though? It's going to be Brandon Feeney. Last time by, Feeney, despite how much he struggled on the initial start, Feeney is now turning lap times faster than Sabelski and Hess. Feeney is still in this battle for the lead. 8 laps left to go. I don't know if it's going to be enough, but Feeney is still very much here in that banged and beat up machine. 7 laps as we cross the line, and now it's an equal distance between your top 3 drivers here. Sabelski, Hess, and Feeney. With only 6.5 miles left to go here at Dover, Feeney is slowly but surely closing on the number 85. I didn't think he was going to be able to do it after that incident, but he is managing to make it happen here. Oh, and he scrapes against the wall. Oh, man. I really am out here giving the commentator's curse to some of these drivers, but Feeney is still keeping it rolling in the right direction. That hurt his speed just a bit, but he is still within half of a second of Sabelski. Sabelski has fallen back to more than half of a second from Hess, though. Big high five up in the air. 5 laps left to go at Dover, and Hess is pulling away here. Not what Sabelski or Feeney want to see. It might just end up coming down to the battle for the second position here this evening. Just behind is Gardner and TJ Henson being scored back in 8th and 6th respectively. Both drivers at least 7 laps down. And 5 drivers electing to retire early from the event. I believe that is the most we have ever seen retire early from an ASRC Oval Series competition. As we cross the line with 3 laps left to go, Hess pulls it away to a 1-second lead. Feeney still half a second back from Sabelski. But it's looking like things are starting to be a little bit done and dusted here at Dover for the Dover 150. What a crazy race it has been. I don't think anyone had any of this in their playing cards here tonight, but that's okay. A little bit of chaos never hurts to spice things up here in the ASRC Oval Series, and sure enough, Feeney is starting to get passed by lap traffic here, so it looks like he is out of this battle for race contention. And that leaves Hess and Sabelski. And as Hess comes through 3 and 4 and the white flag goes up in the air, next flag ends the race one way or another, and Hess has a 1.2 second lead to be playing with. White flag up in the air. Hess takes home the win at Daytona. Has a really solid run back at Phoenix. And now he's looking to take home win number 2 here at Dover in the Everfrost Winter Rider entry. Garrett Hess gets it done for time number 2 here in season 13. Hess gonna pull it back around the speedway before he starts thinking about doing any sort of celebrations here, but sure enough, a driver out of Mechanicsville, Maryland, takes home win number 2, continues his lead in the championship standings, came in leading tonight, going to be leaving a leader here as well. Alrighty, race fans, don't go anywhere. We'll be back here in just a second with some words with your top 3 finishers. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to the Dover Motor Speedway. Welcome back to Season 13 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. One of the most bizarre races we've had in the past couple of weeks in the books here tonight. Garrett has taken home win number 2 and continuing his lead of the championship standings. How are you feeling after everything's said and done here this evening?
Feeling pretty good, actually. I didn't really have high hopes for this race. I've only done this once before, and it was in a different league. I got lucky to just have a better strategy than other people through the corners to give me a whole lot of speed down the straight, so I can make passes. I definitely think I wasn't very good on the tire saving aspect, but I think me being able to get all the speed down the straightaways negated a whole lot of losses in the corners.
Yeah, you definitely managed to have a whole lot of speed working for you there, and you had a really solid run going when we were under green flag conditions. But when that yellow came out right at the very end, were you worried at all that you might not have the short run speed to make a sprint to the finish work?
Not really. I feel like that if I just stayed consistent I could have kept Brian and Brandon behind me. Brian said that he hit the wall a good chunk, so his car was hurt, and then we saw Brandon Feeney's front end go to the next dimension. So I was basically the only one of the top three that had a functioning car. So as long as I kept it consistent and didn't mess anything up, I had a pretty good shot at taking home the W.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seemed to work out one way or another. And of course, you said coming into tonight, not a race you were feeling confident about. But was there any point tonight where that switch flipped for you? Because you had a heck of a run pretty much all evening.
I think once I saw how much I was pulling away from Shane and Brian, even when I was trying my best to like save tires, I feel like that's when I knew that I had some serious speed and it wasn't just them saving a lot more than I did. I definitely got lucky from that first caution that Shane was in the pits and then he disconnected. So it was basically, I don't want to sound mean to anyone, but it was basically just me and Brian as the two people who were basically up front for the win. So I knew that as long as I could beat Brian and he's stupid fast, I could have a very good shot of winning.
Fair. Fair. Oh, hold on. Okay. Fair enough. Of course, pretty much everyone that was contesting you in the championship either didn't show up tonight or didn't have the greatest of finishes. So you're going to have a really big points lead going on into Charlotte next week. How you feel about heading to a little bit of a bigger track?
Charlotte's an okay track for me. I'm a lot better at the old Charlotte, but I know this is the newer one, so it's definitely a track that I'm all right at. And for that whole people having bad races or not showing up, there are drop weeks, so all of that can basically get negated if if they do show up the next few races. So one one missed race by them isn't going to hurt them too much.
Yeah, that's true. One heck of a run so far this season for you, though, Mr. Hess. And before I let you go and celebrate win number 2 in the books here this season, the microphone is all yours. Who do you want to thank for making everything happen?
I want to thank everyone who puts on ASRC, great group of people. I want to thank you for broadcasting and commentating. I know how much of a hassle that can be. I want to thank Everfrost. I want to thank Team Watson Racing, great group of guys over there. I want to thank my brother for giving me a reason to wake up in the morning, and I want to thank the St. Mary's County public school system for allowing me to do what I love.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on win number 2, and I look forward to seeing you at Charlotte.
Yep, see you there.
Finishing back in position number 2, Brian. It's great to have you back up here in the booth with me. Not quite how you wanted to open up the season, but finally things starting to go your way here tonight. How are you feeling?
Despite finishing second, feel really good. I just wanted a good finish tonight. It's been, Aiden, it's been rough. It's been rough these last couple of weeks. I've just been, things have been going this way and that way, and it's been, just need to have a good finish so that I can like kind of get my head on and get rolling again. So yeah, I thought I had damage, but apparently looking at my car after the race, maybe I was a little scuffed up, but it wasn't like damaged. It just felt that way, maybe because tire wear or something like that. I thought I had broken something on the right front at the end, but guessing it was actually more okay than it was. Still, you don't want to slap the wall there at all, even if you lose a tenth or two around this track. It's way too much time to give up. But yeah, I didn't know if I'd have anything for Garrett on the long run, and I didn't quite have enough. But everything kind of went our way tonight. We got ourselves in good position and the finish race clean. So hey, good on that. I can't complain too much.
Yeah, for the most part, it seemed to work out for you. I know Garrett was saying coming in tonight, not really a track that he was feeling good about, but what about you? Is Dover a track you have any particularly strong feelings about coming into the season?
Started out as one of the tracks on iRacing that I was not very good at, and I kind of eventually figured out how to drive it better, and now it's kind of fun. The tire wear thing is still um, a little bit of a thing I have to work on here. It's better. It's not perfect. It's not quite what I would want, and that's just on me to work on that and figure that out. But yeah, first race I ever ran here, I blew my right front out and slammed into the wall in official race. So, a lot better not to do that. But yeah, uh, I was out last week. Unfortunately, I missed the track I really love in Phoenix. Was out last week on vacation, so to come back and run second and almost get the pole as well. I say, you know what, you gotta take what you can get. Keep learning, keep working on stuff. Just keep trying to better yourself every time, and you'll get to you. You'll get to it. I guess I should say, not it'll get to you. Other way around.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, heck of a run here tonight. Definitely beats blowing the right front. You put on a really good show here this evening. Will we be seeing you next week at Charlotte?
Yeah. Yes, I will. I'll be
Good
back next
deal.
week. Yeah.
How you feeling
Yep.
heading over there? Is that a track you like it all?
Oh yes. You may recall that from such great hits as last season, when I stormed from the back in like 6 laps and almost won the dang thing on the last restart. So yeah, I like Charlotte. Both versions, they're both good. They're both fun. It's a track I'm very comfy with. Um, don't know. I don't know where I'll finish, because that track could also produce a lot of racing where it's you're just kind of like holding on tight and hoping for everything to go right. So yeah, that's something to look forward to for next week, and we'll see how it all shakes out.
Good deal. I like the enthusiasm. I'm sure it's bound to be a pretty solid event. For now, though, Mr. Sabelski, the microphone is all yours. Who do you want to thank for getting things done here tonight?
Well, of course, thank the folks at Maconia Setup Shop, official setup shop of eNASCAR. Always good group to work with. SM Racing, love the button box. Thank them for sponsoring the series once again. Let's see who else I want to sponsor. Thank who do I want to sponsor? Who do I want to thank? Gosh, there's got to be other ones I can think of. Hold on a second here. Thank you all for Jason for doing the league admin stuff. It's difficult. Thanks to you for broadcasting. Thanks to the folks that take this for having me on as a streaming ambassador into 2024. So we're almost 6 years with them now. So always a pleasure to be working with them. And yeah, thanks to all of you for watching. Hi everyone in chat. Hi.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on the solid run here this evening, and I look forward to seeing you at Charlotte next week.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
And finishing back in the third position, Mr. Brandon Feeney. Unfortunately, not interested in coming up and having a conversation here tonight, but he is going to be the driver rounding out the podium here this evening. But of course, these three drivers aren't the only drivers here in the field. How about we take a look down at our unofficial, of course, gotta emphasize that unofficial race results here this evening. Harriet Sabelski excuse me. Hess, Sabelski, and Feeney bringing home your top 3 spots here tonight. That's going to be Michael Sparks back in 4th for a 3-4 combo for the Canadian drivers, followed by Derek Murphy in the 78, rounding out the top 5 here this evening. TJ Henson bringing it home back in position number 6, followed by Jay DeVries back in 7th. Jason Gardner going to bring it home position number 8, with the 2 SM Racing Products drivers bringing it home 9th and 10th. 11th place going to go back to Corey Logan in the 24 CZ Robotics entry, followed by Shane Wyatt in the 45, with Derek Houston rounding out the field here this evening, being scored a full 101 laps down here this evening. That said, that's just about all we got here from the Dover Motor Speedway. Thank you all for coming out here tonight. Been one bit of an unconventional race, not quite what anyone was expecting here this evening, but everyone got it done. And next week, heading to Charlotte Motor Speedway, not for one of the full-length ARCA events. This will be a 100-mile event like normal with ASRC, so 67 laps is going to be the distance at Charlotte next week. For now, though, thank you all for tuning in and supporting the league, supporting the broadcast. We all appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing y'all